Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. Here we go. I feel like I'm close to the end. We are 37 hours in, give or take, I guess. And, boy. I think I just need to find the cure, or the neutralization thing for the virus. We already managed to rebuild Alan's body yesterday, so he is effectively waiting for us. I don't know what that's going to mean or what that's going to look like, but I gotta say, his body is some kind of cool. It is definitely a clever sci-fi take on everything. Okay, those were some interesting sound effects. I just went and found this nice picture of me with my sister's cat. Hard to see from here. But, necklace, that's the picture. Anyway, we have a refrigerator. Ellen's in it, because why not? I don't think there's anything else I need from here. I'm gonna grab maybe Thumper. Let's make one of them just to say we did it, I guess. Magnetite and titanium. Not as though we have a shortage of them, I suppose. Let's see how big one of these bad boys is.
Used by miners and researchers to explore perilous environments, the thumper creates a steady source of noise that might repel unwanted creatures by amplifying collision sound waves.
Interesting. Well, it's not too big. Some first aid kits. Okay. Guess you can never have enough salad. You know? Here we go. Oh, there was one more thing you could make. Could make. I thought there was. You can build a snowman. Don't see it in here. Now I'm confused. Sure. There's a recipe for ion batteries, for one thing. Did use those because ion cubes were so hard to come by. tether tool. Ever get the teleportation module? That's the thing. Quantum locker. We did get the teleportation module. Let's see about this first. Advanced wiring kit. Oh, I'll bet you have to build it here. Yeah. Mostly I'm just curious how much space it gives you. Wire. Gold. Yeah, computer chip. Regular wiring kit. Perfect. Do it right now. No, what are we missing? Titanium. Silly me. Can't drop it here. Only use it outside. Eight. 16, that's it. It on land somewhere too, eh? Build another one.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
Should we put it? Lead. So why not? Oops. Oh, there you go, it's full. I can pick it up when it's full. Last 2 silver. So I don't have any more.
Warning, passing 100 meters. Oxygen efficiency decreased.
I forgot about that. Oh, here we go. Here's a pair of them. Pair of them do we have nearby? Probably not. I did it again! I did it again, my goodness. Gee, that's been a while, hey? Feel like a pro streamer now. Good grief. Just, I don't know, bury me in a box and toss me into the ocean. I am just not cut out for this. Remember nothing. Yeah, I'm kind of far from my base. This is taking way longer than it needed to. Just want one more table coral. Not so much to ask. It is. 2 more. So I'm here.
Warning, passing 100 meters.
Oh, I know.
Oxygen efficiency decreased.
There we go. Oh, there's even more. There's my base. Along with, 50 other things. Good grief, I feel unintelligent leaving that off for so long. Last time I did that, I was fortunate enough to have somebody who said something, but I suppose if there's nobody here, there's no reason anybody should think to say anything. Well, I won't take it personally. I already have. Never mind. Just need one ion key. Nope. Should be this. I had them, but I forgot. 4x4. Bella? Battery first. No. Yeah, there's my lantern tree growing. Battery. Best. Which way? Just fun. Oh, okay. Health 99%. There we go. There's where we need to go. Off on our final journey. Forgot the couple upgrades I never built. The never got the second piece for the afterburners for the sea truck. I feel that's terribly worth worrying about. I never did get teleportation thingy. That just seems... How nearby does the sea truck need to be? That seems kind of... I don't know. Interesting idea, anyway. Make things different, add some more conveniences. I don't know what they consider to be, close. Suppose it's all relative. Strange, I still feel like there's parts of the game I haven't explored. If I remember right, there is a shelf here. Coming in somewhere close anyway. Oh, there it is. Maybe. Whoops. Oh, that isn't it. There it is. There's the shelf. There we go. Beached. Okay. Anything else we need? Oh, no. That might as well. These guys, right? Of course we need those guys. What's wrong with me? I shouldn't need. Those I shouldn't need. Okay, I'm ready. No. And I missed the bad parking job.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
Oh well. There's our little base. Let's see. Oh. I don't know still adds a bunch of body heat. Body heat does not feel like the threat it used to feel like. Right. Mm-hmm. Let's just see. A little bit high up. Perfect, right on the railing. The access to all that stuff that I don't actually need right now. Well, I feel like here's an idea. Take a while to grow, but may as well plant the lantern fruit here. There for now, I guess. Maps. This is the thing we need to find. So we need to go over there to find that base. I don't know, something like that. Those will like more of. Yes. Oh. More space than that to grab. So, should be able to. Up. There. going? That's right. Southwest. No, I want to get to the prawn suit. That makes more sense.
Dangerous weather approaching. Seek shelter.
Mm-hmm. So we need to go more. More southwesternly direction. Shh. Kind of need. So there's the dock. According to this, we should be able to go over and around. Not that the map is super comprehensive or anything, but I can't see anything in the dark. Now we're opposite. Should we just keep following it along here? Right, so that's kind of the ice bridge there. Go across and it's just a wall. So now we're right here. Boy, I'm confused. Boy, boy, I'm confused. That's what I get for trying to follow the map. Was on hand. Like, this is not the way to go.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
That can't be too much longer, can it? Hey there, buddy. Really hard to tell. I know. Probably not supposed to be in this cave at all. Looks like we're getting some daylight, so let's go back and see if that sheds any light on the subject. There's a little extra spit of water. Looks like it should be. Ouch. Let's get us walking back that way. Maybe my mistake is trying to use the map at all. So right now I'm over here. I go that way, so I want to go south. There's a little bridge in the water. Oh, maybe I need to go over here. Ah, there's a cave. We can take the guy. So, 1 and 2. Spy pangling. Magnetite. Antidote.
Sam must have stashed this here.
Ah,
She was gonna use this antibacterial agent to neutralize the bacterium.
expect so. What else is down there? I don't know.
Deploying camera.
Playing camera. Alright, back out we go.
Civil approaching. Seek shelter.
Seeking shelter.
Until next mission.
There, see, that worked really well. Wow, that's a tiny little container. Antidote. Okay, a little spy pingling. Let's go back to my knife. Scanner. Okay, so antidote. A fevered pepper and a frostbite. So I can make my own. Really, that's it. That's all you need for an antibacterial. Well, good to know, I suppose. So, I'm here. Can I actually get up and around there now? Almost looks like I should be able to, right? There's a cave. Nothing in this cave that I need badly enough to worry about. If Yeah. What? There we go. So what is this place? Nothing up there. Just titanium. More titanium, and more titanium. Well, there's the trees in the base. Okay, so we are here. To go more or less straight north. Oh, that almost worked. Urge of the jungle I'm not, but... At least I need to be going north. This is north. There's the tower thing. suppose we're kind of banned from going in there, aren't we? Should give me enough. Storage. Should be grab. Hang on, just in case. Take one. Should be good. Security door. Whole thing without the snow fox, which is good because the last time I used it, man, did I get motion sick. Just dizzy all over the place. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Oh, this is supposedly where Sam died. A cave in of some kind. That guy's kind of scary looking. Looks like there's a cave up there. Maybe not. Hard to tell. Definitely some kind of a reflection or something from up there. Yeah, it looks like this. I would move across over there. Anyway. Well, looky here. Those flares burn literally forever. Up we go. Insert the antidote. Should have saved it first. Now what do we do? Ah, of course. There it goes.
I believe the antibacterial agent was effective. Without it, the bacteria could have spread. Now it cannot. Your sister's memory will live in you through this gesture.
Feels good. Doing this one last thing for Sam. I feel like I got some closure.
My people do not experience endings as you do. Do humans feel joy in realizing that you've reached the end of something?
Sometimes. Closure is a sense of resolution, like knowing that even though it still hurts, it'll be okay. I did what I came to do. I found out what really happened to her, and I got to finish her work. I learned a little bit more about the person I've looked up to for, well, my whole life. I wish I'd told her that more. Sam always wanted to make a difference. She wanted the bacteria contained to keep everyone safe. I'm grateful to give her that. I just wish I could have said goodbye.
Basically, it's all gone. Bacteria is cured once again. 4546B is safe. Feels antibacterial, man. Oh we really need to do is get to do it again in 2022. Done. Guess the only thing left to do is to go back, meet up with Alan, and see where that takes us. Definitely leaving the snow speeder. At the snow base. There's no way I'm going to be using it again if I don't need to. I'm sorry. That was a terrible, terrible joke. Okay, maybe I'm not sorry. Now we just gotta find our way back. That'll be the tricky part.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
Welcome. Welcome. Let's see that map one more time. So we need to go south. South, south. Way. Whoops. Right general direction, I suppose. Yeah, this is familiar. Hello there, friend. Still feels like this is the right direction. Hard to see in this game sometimes. Ah, well, not the way we went, but easily the way we can get back. Hey, there's the base. Woohoo! Bye. Good riddance. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad they tried to add a new vehicle. And thematically it makes a lot of sense. Practically, it even made some sense. Reality gave me a headache. So, you know, can't have everything, but you can have a lot of things for sure. Oh, good grief. Whew, that cold water. Yeah, I am still, I think I'm actually 6 followers short. Oh, now I got the phone ringing. Keep trying to call me. I'm not going to answer it today either. Just keep not picking a good time. You know what I mean? Guess we never used the thumper. So I guess I will put it... Heck stuff there. So if we use pepper, actually synthesize more antidote. To be honest, you never know when you're going to need that. Had a good sleep.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
Now we're going back to our ship. There we go. Oops. Enter the sea truck. There's the phase gate facility, kind of on the other end of the map here. I feel like we should have explored these guys a little more. There were some things in the game I never found. Sooner or later I'll do a second playthrough. I may not stream it all like I did with the first, but... Right, sir. We kind of gotta go around all of this. Splat. More caves. Is indeed so much more to this game, I feel like, than I found. It's a little harder to navigate some of it than the first game. But I say that having spent 200 hours in the first game and getting fairly comfortable with how to get everywhere, you know? Splat, splat. So, that said, the deep caves are confusing to navigate in the first game. Noticeably so. Oop. Keep running into things. Okay. may be done the game, and I may be getting out of here pronto, but I still don't want to drive around in a busted up old pickup. To make sure everything is shipshape before we head out, including prawn suit. Here we go, I think. I wonder if, knowing this is here, you can kind of game the system a little bit more. I don't know. Maybe you can't. It's just my imagination, but it wouldn't surprise me. Gee, that's not hard to see anything in, is it? Cute little snowman. Yeah, this planet's been pretty harsh on a lot of people and a lot of things. It's a miracle in some ways that Maida survived it all. This way, I wonder. There we go. Sure, now I'm all going the wrong way and everything. Yeah, nice and hot. Take. Why do I get the feeling this thing will not fit through that door? Oh. Well, that's very spicy. Really think so, but can't blame a fella for checking. Nope. Oh well, that's okay. It's okay. Silly me, what was I thinking? Going to a new planet. I don't need to bring silver ore with me. What I need is to be able to... Oh, quit that. Alright, who knows? We're taking off for a brand new world. Not new world, but a brand new world, except I suppose in a lot of ways it's an old world. It's Alan's old world. I go through, there's no turning back. No turning back. Are we ready? See what's on the other side? No. Oh. Can. Technically. Throw it the other way? Yeah. Just because I gotta be difficult. Oh, it's shut down. Doesn't look good, does it? Good at all. Still below zero, hey?
Robin, you're just in time. The phase gate is opening.
Oh.
You've been hiding a phase gate here this whole time.
Only for the last millennium. It will lead us home.
No wonder you.
Oh,
made
we're on the
yourself
same
look
planet.
It was imperative to keep the homeworld safe, in hopes that the others survived.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh?
Will you help me prepare the ship? The energy masts must be moved into place.
Well, this is different.
Yeah. Energy masts. Falling down, I assume. Line the pillar. That's neat. Yeah, whoops. Easy there, Robin. I'm down. Lets me float. I'm not running. Wish there was somewhere I could see my shadow. Oh, maybe I can. Find it. Oh. Yeah, I'm not running, I'm floating. It's pretty cool. Still wearing my... Doesn't even matter if I'm wearing my cold suit. Can't even get into my inventory. Where's my shadow? There it is. Very cool. Okay. Energy masts. Got it. Whatever an energy mast is, I don't know, but we're going to align it. Well, I guess we've never done this before. Making us look a bit like an amateur, but...
Very good. Return to me and I will initiate ship assembly.
Aw, I don't want to return my arms. They're neat.
Thank you. The masts are in place. The energy field is ready. There is no time to lose.
is right.
Join me, Robin.
Sign me up. Sister is gone. Corporation is bought out by Altera. Bad guys. It's time to get off this frozen hunk of rock and see what's next. Ow!
I apologize. The levitator was calibrated for heavier bodies. I would have helped you to your feet, but as you can see, I have been fully integrated with the ship.
Is this permanent?
Nothing is permanent. Are you ready to go?
Yes. I found the answers I was looking for. I'm ready to move on. I can't bring Sam back. But I know she died fighting, and I got to finish her work. I'll always carry her memory.
Good. Please brace yourself, and then we will depart.
Brace myself where? Here, I guess.
Launching in 3,
3,
2, 1.
That's the phase gate. Are we braced? Woohoo! That's neat.
What will we find when we get there?
If I am the last of my kind, I will experience the sorrow of 10,000 souls dimming.
How many phase gates do we need to take? 2, maybe.
And if they survived?
With you, I am ready to face whatever awaits. There's no doubt that that was a little more intense of a closing. Really need to download the music for this game for sure. It's a little less. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, in some ways, storytelling is nothing new or revolutionary, but I don't think it needed to be. I think they did a really good job of providing new environments, similar challenges, a little bit less hand-holding, a little bit fewer tasks to accomplish. I mean, there was definitely more things that I feel I didn't need to worry about in this game. I mean, I am sad it's over. I enjoyed having a new world to explore. I enjoyed
getting to meet, quote unquote, meet new people, new characters from this universe, I feel like it was less. I'm still not even sure how to say it. Less. Or, I don't know, less and more. I mean, the experience of Subnautica is one that balances tension with creativity and trying to do things quickly versus trying to do things accurately. You know, trying to get away from the enemies, trying to discover, you know, areas during, you know, areas where there's different things going on, and definitely some creative new creatures involved. Here we are back at the beginning. So that was my last. Right before that ejection was my last save. Oh, that's not the button I meant to hit. We just watched that. Oh, what else can I say, though? I mean, is it a worthy successor to the first game? I'm going to say yes. But there, in a sense, there's no way that, while they did, I think, a great job of paying homage to the first game, of respecting what the first game was about, they changed enough to make it a new experience. I was ticking things off as on my fingers, even though nobody can see. You know, new characters to interact with, and I feel like we got to know those characters better. Sense of isolation is the only thing I feel like that was really missing. Granted, you know, you only really interact with Marguerite like 3 times in the game. When you first find her on the island, when you first get to her base, and when you get to her greenhouse base. Those are the only 3 times you really interact with her. You've got Alan, who's in your head talking to you for most of the game, before you get his body finished. And then, other than that, you really are alone. But as much as having a disembodied voice in your brain doesn't sound like it should mean you're not alone, it does feel like you're not alone. And yes, you can kind of ignore his calls, at least in the short term. I don't know what happens if you don't answer them. I assume the game pings you just later on down the line. I don't know. I do feel overall that the game was a little bit less dangerous, but part of that is because I think part of that is because of my experience with the game, right? I mean, I spent 200 hours in the first Subnautica learning how to dodge, you know, the fish, learning how to stay out of their reach, learning how to attack them so they leave you alone, and then prepare your craft so you're not stranded. You know, not to panic is probably the most important thing to learn when playing a Subnautica game. Because as soon as you panic, then you make mistakes. You know, the very first time my sea moth was grabbed by a leviathan, a reaper in the first game, my instinct was, well, you know, first of all, I was surprised, so then I was scared, and then I panicked. And what did I do? I jumped out. right? And when you do that, the Leviathan destroys your sea moth, and you got to go back and build another one. But if you stay in the boat, in the sea moth, then it eventually lets you go, and you can run away and then repair the sea moth, and you're good to go, right? So in this game, I already knew things like that, you know. And somebody was telling me that those, like, whatever they are, that they dwell on the bottom of certain caves, and they like send out a basically a giant tongue to grab you and to like pull you in. And somebody told me that while I was streaming that originally that was if one of those things grabbed you, that was instant death, right? Didn't just do health damage; it actually killed you outright in one shot. And while I think that would have felt cheap from a gameplay perspective, in a way, it would have helped to preserve that sense of danger. I don't think I died during this playthrough. And I mean, I can go back and verify, I guess, right? I may have died once. And I can't say I died a lot playing the first Subnautica game either. But this game gives you a few more options. You know, you don't get the Cyclops-size full-scale mobile base where you can literally do everything. Or at least, you know, ultimately if you do, it takes you a lot of progress to get there, and you kind of add modules to the sea truck as you go along, giving you more, you know, ability to carry things, more ability to stay out longer. Things went kind of wonky for me. I would be interested to see a second playthrough, or to go back and watch a playthrough from streamer that I follow who did do a playthrough, viewed the game, didn't enjoy the second nearly as much as the first, for some of the reasons I've talked about, you know, and largely due to the fact that you're kind of building the same things over again, right? This game added some more cosmetic options, like you can get a stove that doesn't do anything. You can get a toilet that you can interact with. You can get a sink, and you know, other things like that. So you can really trick out a base and make it feel like a long-term home, if you wanted to, which is certainly what Marguerite did, right? She, you know, her place was kind of a pigsty. But I mean, you know, you live on the same planet in a little place like that underwater. There's only so much to do. I mean, you know, probably I would keep it cleaner if it was me, but having said that, maybe I wouldn't. But if I had to tell a person to play only one Subnautica game, I would tell them to play the original, because I still feel like the original is, like, if the original is a 95 out of 100, then Below Zero is an 85 out of 100, right? It hits all the same notes in a way, but, you know, it just hits them in a, not even necessarily in a different order, but hits them, I don't know, just because it's not the first time, right? I mean, the more survival games you play, the more you will, I don't know, the more you'll kind of get that gameplay loop of getting what you need, learning to where and how to sustain yourself, and then exploring farther and farther from home, which is all fantastic. And, you know, I'm all for that. And I like that they added a few nice touches, like the glass ceilings that you can install, the bigger room that you can divide up, you know, so you can make it into, you know, you could make it into a dormitory, or you could just have one of those giant rooms, and you could have, you know, one room for sleeping, and one room for growing stuff, and one room for your aquarium, and you know, you could really set it up fancy, like an actual sort of long-term place where you might live, spend 10 or 20 or 50 years living, ultimately, if you wanted to. I mean, The resources are all there, and I don't know. They're both good. I'm curious to see what they will do next. If they will follow the same, you know, if the studio's next game will be another Subnautica. You know, Subnautica, you know, the desert edition, or Subnautica the, I don't know how you do desert underwater, but you know what I mean. Like, where do they go from here, right? Temperate water to frozen water is one thing. I mean, the only other thing I could think of would be to do like some kind of Subnautica in a gas giant. And to be fair, the world we just went to with Alan, we never saw the ground, we just saw the buildings. The buildings easily could be up in the clouds. I mean, if they gave you, like at the end there, they gave you some kind of hover control, you could easily, you know, do Subnautica above the clouds. And I don't know how that would work, you know, as far as finding resources, you know, because you're not going to find titanium or, you know, things just floating around in the sky. But do they tackle another game like this, or do they branch out and try something more original? I shouldn't say more original. The original Subnautica was highly original, highly creative, and I think in it, I don't want to say it created a genre, because like survival games have always I shouldn't say they've always existed, but you know, survival games are nothing new at this point. I think the nice blend that Subnautica hit was that blend of survival and horror that wasn't survival horror, right? It's not like the Alan Wakes or the good grief, like the zombie games, Resident Evils, you know, where the sense of tension comes not just from the danger, but from your limited supplies of ammunition. Because in this game, you're not shooting anything, right? Your best tactic is to avoid the things that want to attack you, and you know, and to play it safe. Like, I managed to get into the mining base through a little bit of a back door, which meant I didn't have to free dive it. So I could take my sea truck kind of wherever I needed to go inside, because it wasn't deep enough that I needed a depth module to get really anywhere. So I didn't have to free dive the whole thing from the door. I was able to take it at a much more relaxed pace and explore and enjoy it, which probably, well, I shouldn't say probably, it did definitely take some of the tension out. I mean, the sections exploring the sections of the old crashed Mercury ship were very tense, and there's one point in particular when I was unquestionably, unutterably lost, and I was spinning in circles. I had no idea where I was going next, and I was sure I was going to die. But I don't think I did. I don't think I did die. I think I made it back out, no problem. I shouldn't say no problem, but managed to find a way back out, maybe on the other side of the ship, and then I just swam around to get to where the sea truck was. But, my goodness. That's the only part of the game that was... I shouldn't say it's the only part of the game that was really tense, because the Purple Crystal Cave was also... That was also pretty tense. Before I had the prawn suit to bring with me. I can't remember if that was before I built the prawn suit, or if that was... I just didn't have it with me and found that place. I'm not sure. But in either case, doing what I did was... or maybe I couldn't bring it down deep enough, because I didn't have the kyanite to build the depth module. I'm not entirely sure. But, again, they did a great job of using the same structure, using the same engine, using the assets and the resources that already existed for them, and using them to tell another story, right? It's another story in the same universe. It picks up, you know, I don't know how many years down the road from the first game. See Altera doing what Altera does and exploiting things for whose benefit we don't really know, other than the bottom line and presumably the shareholders. So very, I want to say uninspired story, but not exactly original. And yet, you know, a pristine world like this, where there's so much going on, there's so much wildlife, that, you know, apparently bounced back after, in the first game, we solved the original virus problem. And somehow since then, the entire ecosystem was cured, I guess. I mean, I guess that's good. I guess that's a logical extension of what happened. If they do a third Subnautica game, I would almost rather see it... Like, the first game was a bigger zone, I feel like. It was certainly a deeper zone. There was more biomes, and the biomes were larger, but everything was, well, you know, with the exception of 2 quite small islands, everything was underground. In this game, the above surface, like the ground level stuff, was a significant part of the game. I don't feel like it was the strongest part of the game, honestly. Snow Fox, again, just made me feel seasick, bouncing up and down and not being intuitive to turn or steer. I don't know how else set it up to control it, but I just know that zipping back and forth, don't get me wrong, being able to go fast was cool, and I never did try. It feels like there would be places to do some really neat jumps off of some icebergs, which would be cool, probably end up killing you, but, you know, despite the fact that there's a lot there, you know, it's a sandbox, right? You can go and try those things if you want, just like, you know, building a base, you know. First time I played Subnautica, I only ever built my one base in the shallows. Second playthrough I started and never finished. I built a deeper base, you know, like 300-400 meters deep, and then in my third playthrough I ended up building a second base kind of in the underground river, just to save myself trips back and forth, honestly. And the reality is I probably spent more time building that second base than I ever would have spent going back and forth. But the underground river in the first game was so much bigger than it seemed, and there was so much more there. But I think if they do a third game, it would be nice to see them kind of coordinating different areas of the planet, honestly. You know, it is largely an ocean world, and with the phase gates or whatever it is that the architects have, you could easily, you know, integrate several smaller zones into one larger world. I don't know. So many potential things they could try. And I don't know if it's better for them to try or better for them to leave it here and to go after something different. I don't know. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the fact that they went with an A story and a B story, and I'm not even sure which was which. You know, like, that's a common theme in television these days, and to a greater or lesser extent in movies as well, right? There's the main story, there's the overarching story, and then there's always a subplot. You know, there's a romance between characters, there's a disagreement between characters, there's some kind of secondary obstacle to overcome, and sometimes they relate to each other and tie back in, and sometimes they really don't. And they're kind of two standalone stories that are woven together, and neither's particularly bad. A bad way to do it. I think Below Zero did a perfectly competent job with it. The way, Alan changed his mind about contacting the Altera crew because he didn't trust them, but then got to a point where he literally had no choice but to trust Robin, our character, and like he was essentially at the point where if he didn't do it now, it wasn't going to happen, and he was going to die. So he had to take a chance. And I guess the only question that's kind of left unanswered is whether whether or not he'll kind of regret that. It certainly doesn't seem that way. The relationship. Oh, Richie! Haha! I just finished. Well, I shouldn't say just finished. Probably 15 minutes ago I just finished. Yeah, I did. I'm just kind of trying to summarize my thoughts, which has been me rambling for 20 minutes. So, yeah, that's been something. The short version is Subnautica Below Zero a good game? Yes. Is it worth price? Yes. If you're only going to play one Subnautica game, play the first one. I'm pretty sure you've played both as well, and certainly playing both is worth doing. But, yeah, I said the first one, if the first one is a 95 out of 100, then Below Zero is maybe an 85 out of 100. Which isn't... It sounds like a criticism of the game, but it does leave unanswered questions. I feel like... it's strongly hinted at in the game that... Well, I shouldn't say strongly. On the surface, it sounds as though Sam did die in the accident, like they said. But it does leave that question of, did she really, or was it, kind of a cover-up job, because she had been caught doing some things that were against company interest. And I don't mind that tension. I don't mind not having an answer to that question. On the one hand, it is something they could come back to and give us an answer if they wanted to. But I feel like having that uncertainty isn't a bad thing. Right? Finding conclusive evidence that, the security guy was kind of, instructed to make sure that things, go badly. Yeah, that's another one, and I think I don't know. I don't have an answer for that too. I agree. That's kind of a bit of a glaring one. And I was saying before, like you really only encounter her 3 times, right? The first time when you're on the island, and she kind of warns you off, which of course, you do the exact opposite. You go and explore the base. Then there's the time when you actually find her base, and she kind of warns you off as well. But then, of course, lets you in to give you the stuff to kind of progress. And then when you go to the greenhouse. So, how did she survive the virus, the bacteria? It's hard to say. It's possible she's naturally immune to it. It wouldn't be the first time something like that happened. But you're right, it's not spelled out. As for what happened to all the other people around the base, there was the cave-in by the frozen Leviathan. That clearly, if I'm remembering the story right, because I've played this game spread out over 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks now. So Sam and was it the security guy? I can't remember. Somebody else. They were killed in a cave-in. And then you find the both of the bases on the mainland were both Yeah, Sam and the security guy for sure. But then both of the other bases you found were also, you know, the the robotics base was destroyed in a cave-in, and the base 0 was destroyed in an avalanche. So, I mean, I would assume they all died. But I assume that more because that's what the first game shows than because that's necessarily true. It's also possible because gotta remember, there's a landing pad both at both of those bases as well. So they easily could have taken an evacuation ship and left for whatever reason. You know, it's entirely possible they took samples of the virus with them when they left, because, you know, that was really ultimately all Altera was interested in. And so it would actually not shock me to find that the next time they do a Subnautica game, whether or not, you know, it's the same idea or if it's the same planet or what, but if it's the virus that becomes the continuing theme. It certainly was in this game, although, you know, it was a very different plot device. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there was also, I forgot about that, because there was the base that that Marguerite attacked as well, right? The Omega base that she, I can't remember how she did it, but so, you know, some people could have died in that event as well. I mean, you never see bodies. That was the whole point of you know, both games. It's not a horror game in that sense that you're finding dead bodies. You're just finding the notes that everybody left behind. Blows up the reactor? Could be. I mean, either way, right? The base is breached, and you know, like, I've never managed to make a base or have a base that literally blows up in Subnautica, but that base was deep enough that if it did, and you weren't by either an oxygen tank or a vehicle of some kind, that you would easily drown, because the base was, you know, blown open to the ocean, and you swim through it. So, I'm trying to decide also if I appreciate or if I agree with the idea to include maps, those maps that you can scan and refer back to. I mean, I found it really helpful for finding my way back to the frozen Leviathan cave, and to finding, you know, the spot on the map with the little pangolin that's circled. That's the pangolin cache where the antibacterial, the cure was stashed. So that would definitely made it easier to find once I knew that was there. I mean, obviously it's a rough sketch. It's not like a detailed map like you would get in some other games. So it was certainly helpful for that. More than that, I may not have ended up finding the frozen Leviathan cave without the map, just because the overland section there was so big, with the visibility and everything else being so poor, and the fact that driving the Snow Fox around made me so motion sick. I just couldn't stand it. If you go back and watch the VOD of today, you'll see that I didn't use I brought it with me because I thought maybe somehow, yeah, it's just compared to the rest of the game, when you're, I mean, swimming through a cave system is one thing, but I agree, it was definitely convoluted. That's not a bad word for it. But the biggest problem is the visibility, and I understand the thematics of it, and I know you can tone down the weather effects. But that was the only thing that really made it difficult to me to not being able to see where I was going, especially at night, which again thematically fits and is understandable. But the other thing is that there's so many different ways to get there, right? Like, to get up to that spot with the purple trees from the map, there's at least 3 routes you can take, it feels like. And so, yeah, today I didn't use the Snow Fox at all. I stayed in the prawn suit the entire way. Maybe not the fastest way to get there, but I don't feel ill now because I was driving it. So to me, that was worth not taking it, maybe taking a little bit longer. But I wasn't sure if you could even do that. You know, there's a few places where you have to climb a ladder because it's the shortest distance between the 2 points. But really, if you could only see, you would be able to figure out that you can get from point A to point B, kind of going the long way around. And it's all ramps and flat ground, so you can navigate. I appreciate that they tried to include a new vehicle. I don't think the thought was bad, but yeah, I mean, the ice worms were... you know, I mean, it's in a lot of ways, it's kind of a classic Dune reference, right? You've got the thumpers and you've got the ice worms instead of sandworms. But yeah, just the fact that no matter what happens, you're going to get knocked off. I built a thumper, like, in the last part of the game, because I wasn't sure if I was going to have to go past the sandworms again, or the ice worms, to get to the frozen Leviathan. But, yeah, not being... I mean, you could dodge them sometimes, right? When they were charging along the ground, you could dodge them, but as soon as they pop up, they, like, do that big spin, and, you know, so either way you get hit doing that. But same thing with the torpedoes, right? Sure, you build a few magnesite torpedoes and you can deal with the Leviathans a lot more easily, you know, assuming you can target them properly. But at the same time, you know, to some extent, if you're fast enough, you can just dodge them. Right, so you didn't create any vibrations, right? Because you're literally floating above the ground. It's a hover bike. I kept calling it the snow speeder. You know, like from Star Wars, a snow speeder, a land speeder, whatever. So yeah, I get what you mean. You know, the whole area where the ice worms was felt like a neat area that I wasn't able to explore. Right? I mean, ultimately, if you wanted to throw down a thumper, you know, if you wanted to carry it, I remember reading somewhere in the description that it goes through batteries really quickly. Right? So you can, you know, you'd need to bring a number of extra batteries to keep your thumper going so you could explore. But it just felt like the whole area up there was... And I get it. They're trying to preserve that sense of fear that you have underwater of a Leviathan coming up and taking a bite out of you, but have it on land. And I get the desire for that, and the design of the ice worm was neat. I don't know. It has its downsides. But, you know, what else would you do, right? Like, you gotta go there to find the last... well, and so then in order... Like, the only place... The one thing I noticed about this game is that, you know, at the end of the first Subnautica, you find the machine that is building ion cubes, right? So you effectively end up with an unlimited supply of ion cubes. In this game, the supply of ion cubes was quite limited. I never ended up... It was so limited, in fact, that I didn't want to use them. So I didn't. I never made ion batteries or ion power cells. At the end, this episode, like today, I did go and make the storage crates that were kind of interconnected, just because it was a neat idea. I got it so late in the game, I never built the teleportation thing for the sea truck. And the reality is that you don't really need them, right? It's easy enough to carry around a spare battery, a couple of spare batteries, and a couple of spare ion cells even. Like, in my prawn suit, I always had 2 spare not ion cells, but power cells, just in case, right? If you run out of power, whether you're in a cave somewhere and you can't get back out, you're gonna drown and die. And you know, I always have 3 first aid kits and, you know, twice as much water as I think I'm gonna need. I'm just that kind of player, right? So I'm always planning to have, you know, I'd always carry around, you know, whatever non-perishable foods I could, and plenty of water to limit those risks. And again, I get it, right? Like, it's a smaller area. The mystery of who the architects are is not solved, but I mean, you meet one, for crying out loud. It's not like in the first game where they're super vague and super mysterious. And I mean, there was way more ion cubes available in the first game. But in this game, the only ion cube that you could mine using the drill arm was on the very, very far end of the iceworm area. And you'd have to get your prawn suit all the way there, past the iceworm, in order to mine that thing. I mean, if you were desperate to get some ion cubes, then, I mean, it might be worth trying. But again, and I mean, that's the point of the architects, but I'll come back to that in a second, because the other thing, I guess, that I never thought about much was the fact that you have the, what do they call it? Basically the machine that lets you unmake stuff you've built, right? So if you build a, you know, at the beginning of the game, you build all those crates that you set floating outside your base so you can store stuff. Well, once you get that thing that will unmake stuff, you can bring the empty crates back and reclaim the titanium out of them if you wanted to. You know, not that titanium is in super short supply, but you know, so you can get your materials back. So if you built something with a power cell or with an ion cube that you wanted back, you could get it back. But I mean, a lot of questions about the architects, I feel like, from the first game were answered. You know, who are they? What are they like? And maybe Alan is not typical of the architects. We don't know for sure. I was impressed with how they made them. They made them to look like. That was very cool, I think, and very well done. But yeah, I mean, they abandoned the planet that was infected. You know, for what we call 4546B. Who knows what they lost my train of thought there. But yeah, their look was impressive. I like how they blended the green kind of ion colors with a more purplish energy source that we didn't really see in the first game, but then there was those purple crystal cave nearby the place where you reassemble the body for Alan, and it depends a little bit, because I think it depends how far away they are. That's the only counter argument, really. That and the fact that maybe they're, just like Alan was potentially afraid of Altera exploiting him and his technology, you know, rather than helping him get home, you know, wanting to disassemble him, you know, or, you know, take what they could get. So maybe, you know, because of the fact that he was on his own, he was more concerned about that than, you know, if they had been, let's not forget, yeah, that's true. You find those Earth artifacts in the first game, and you find you know, the deactivated doomsday device that could destroy the whole solar system. It's hard to say. I mean, maybe they went into more of an isolationist stage. I mean, you know, here we are exploring 4546b, where there's sea monkeys who may one day, you know, evolve into some kind of mer people. And, you know, we were here, we picked up some stuff and brought it with us, we left some stuff behind. Yeah, I do remember that stuff from Earth now that you mention it in the first game. So there is some indication that they had visited Earth in its ancient past. And I mean, even if you look at the, you know, what Alan's body looked like, you could see how that could be, you know, interpreted to be a minotaur or, you know, some other kind of mythical beast or a, you know, demon even that the ancient people of Earth would have recognized. Centaur. Yeah, exactly. You know, where, you know, that could have been the inspiration for those things. So it's possible they're dead. It's possible that they're more like the Asgardians in Stargate, where they're kind of waiting for humans to reach an evolutionary point where they're able to look beyond their own self-interest. You know, I mean, that's kind of the embodiment of Altera, right? Altera is the big bad corporation that's only looking out for profits, and you know, is more than willing to risk or even sacrifice human lives here and there to accomplish those goals. So maybe they're waiting, and maybe they're so far away that, you know, they're so far away that humans haven't reached them yet, because that, you know, those warp gates they're not jump gates. You know, the end there. You know, you have to make 2 jumps in order to get to their home planet. So we presume it's their home planet. I would be interested to see, you know, what happens when we get there, and maybe that's part of what the next Subnautica will tackle. I don't mind having some unanswered questions, though. I know I said that before, because it makes the world feel real too. I mean, it's the same thing with the original Star Wars, right? There was all kinds of questions they didn't answer, but not having answers allowed them to tell more stories. And, you know, whether or not you like the answers, you know, like take the Force, right? There's in the first game, the Force is the mystical power that binds all life in the universe together, and we, you know, certain individuals have, you know, the ability to recognize and exert this force and whatever. And then in the second trilogy, they added the midichlorians, which gave a, you know, a very scientific, mundane explanation. But which is better, right? Would you rather have a mysterious force that's not explained, that leaves the door open to all kinds of mystical and magical appearing experiences, or do you want to have basically bacteria that give you superpowers, right? I mean, which one would you rather have? I'd rather have a little bit of mystery and a little more unanswered questions than have every question answered in a way that makes the world seem smaller, not bigger. Yeah, and I mean, the architects clearly visited this planet, clearly visited other planets, because human artifacts were not the only artifacts in the first game that we found. In fact, the yin-yang symbol, if I remember right, it was maybe even only questionable that it was of human origin, that it may have come from another place, you know, being a more universal symbol than merely a human contrivance. But so I don't. Again, that's why I don't mind there being some unanswered questions. Yeah, it could have been brought to Earth. That's right, too. It could go either direction. And maybe the architects visiting an ancient Earth started or kicked off some of the philosophies that, or a case of sort of parallel evolution or parallel thought that more than one, it's kind of that whole idea that if there is sentience elsewhere, that's not human, then they still have, look at Alan. Like, sure, they have 4 legs instead of 2, and they've added mechanical arms to their existence to kind of augment their physical form. But even the physical form that they use is not, I would assume it's modeled around, but not based entirely on their original physical form. Because if you assume that they're not just the architects but the ancients, they've been in existence for thousands or millions of years more than humanity, that they've moved beyond that. But the kind of the it's the concept of the opposable thumb, right? Like, in order to build certain tools, you have to have certain abilities to start with on your own, and in order to build a high technology world, you need to be able to think at a certain level. I always remember there's one episode of Stargate, the TV show, where they're trying to defuse a bomb that was built by a certain, descendants of a certain ancient Earth culture, the Sumerians or something like that, and kind of the crux of one of the moments of tension is when they're about to try and disarm this bomb, and they have to input a certain series of numbers, but they but in the ancient language on Earth, that culture never had a number or a depiction for the concept of 0, right? But in order to do complex math, in order to be able to build computers, even, you need to have a concept of 0 or nothing, in order to make certain technologies, and even to make certain philosophical leaps. So I don't know. I'm not sure where I was even going with that tangent, but that there needs to be some kind of continuation. And you're right, the main civilization of the architects may have fallen, may have, when you go through, you can see there's some kind of city there, and the power certainly seems to still be on. But of course, the power is still on 4546B, where we've been after who knows how many years. Granted, Alan's power supply was about to fail, which is why he moved into character here. They definitely built their stuff to last. So yeah, they could have been dead for 1,000 years, and doesn't matter whether the bathroom light is still on, because the generator that powers it, was built to last 500,000 years. So it could easily be an empty city. We may never know. But even if the main civilization has fallen, it's certainly likely that there are, it would surprise me if Alan was the last. If they have this, if their entire civilization is built into these bodies, I guess his had to be rebuilt, right? But there must be more places in the galaxy than just this one planet where the facility exists to create a new body. Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's kind of 6 of one or half a dozen of the other. I do hope the team does put out another game. I'm torn as to whether or not they should leave the Subnautica underwater. There's my phone again. I'm actually going to answer that because it's working. It might be important. I'm just going to mute myself here. Sorry about that. There's the chat. Raises the question of why they couldn't just put themselves in pure robot forms. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, and I mean, it's an awfully, like, this game in itself tackles a whole lot of kind of metaphysical questions, right? What is life? What, lends value and meaning to our lives? And, that's kind of where Alan and Robin have their disagreements is, what's important, and Alan lives for thousands of years, and Robin lives for maybe 100 years, and so which is the better existence? Maybe a purely robotic form can't actually sustain a living consciousness. That would be my... If I was writing the story, that would be my answer to your question. Because I don't... My argument would be that a purely robotic, purely mechanical form, no matter how complex the computer, wouldn't be able to reproduce... I might be able to store memory, but not be able to create sentience. Yeah, that's true. I don't know if a robot cube is the right word for it, but I suppose he was able to have some autonomy there. He wasn't just in storage. I mean, we don't know for sure that was a purely mechanical construct either, though, right? It's been so long now since I played through that part of the game that I'm having a hard time relying on my memory to know. I mean, I agree, it looked very technological. But that said, Alan's physical body, when we rebuild it, looks fairly technological and not very biological. I mean, they make a big deal about the fact that it is. Or at least is in part. So, I would think, if nothing else, that the advantages of having some mechanical and biological components would overall outweigh the risks. I mean, obviously the bacteria that they get subjected to on the planet here is, an exception rather than a rule, because, I mean, the fact that the bodies were, from over 20 different DNA sources should have given it a fairly strong resistance to things like disease and even natural aging. Not to mention injury, which is clearly a big part of it. But I would think that the bacteria that's was here that was infecting people, I'm going to, and maybe it says something about this in the game too, but my feeling is that it was an engineered virus, right? That it wasn't a naturally occurring kind of thing. And maybe the architects were the ones who even created it in the first place, or one group of architects did, either as a weapon or as, I mean, who knows, like, creatures that advanced could, try and do something like that just to answer the question of whether or not they could. I mean, look at the ancients in Stargate again. If you go and watch Stargate Atlantis and those shows, that the ancients in that universe were so far ahead of where humanity was, and yet, we're still victims of some of the same failings, moral failings and all that. So, again, I don't have a good answer. There are potential answers out there, and I think several of them could be made to work for a good story, right? Ultimately, everything breaks down, so even a civilization like theirs that may have existed for millennia could certainly have worn itself out over time. You know, maybe the bacteria originally was an attempt to, maybe it was something that mutated when they were trying to find a way to strengthen the biological component of the bodies they were using. You know, we don't know. You know, it could have been an attack from another alien race that they never, you know, that we haven't even heard of yet, that was trying to move into their territory, or was waging some kind of guerrilla war, or had... I mean, there's all kinds of potential answers to that I don't have, obviously. And again, it leaves you something to wonder about. Leaves you curious for what might be in the next game. Yeah. Thing about the first game is that the story was entirely told by remembrance, right? Everything that you learn in the first game comes from scan data and from data pads with people's recorded thoughts. And whereas, I suppose in this game the vast majority of the story comes that way too. Well, the vast majority of the details come that way. The overall story is told, really, the detailed story of the architects is told through your interactions with Alan. And to some extent, even your relationship with Sam in this game is told through your relationship with Alan. For their first attempt at active storytelling, you know, with dialogue, I think it was a perfectly adequate attempt. I don't think it's going to win any awards for writing. I don't think it's going to set a new standard in any kind of, you know, way, other than to prove that an indie game like Subnautica doesn't have to be a one and done. Right? That a studio that churns out something with the broad appeal and longevity of Subnautica can branch out and can expand their storytelling ability beyond what they began with. And again, I agree, not perfect. It did raise more questions than it answered. It was good, it was fun. The world felt smaller, and I mean, I'm quite certain it is smaller. But of course, there's the extra layer of above the surface that you know, adds one more layer to everything. So, and I mean, I know there's above the surface stuff in the first game. There's the ship, and there's the two little islands and whatnot. But, well, the floating island and the actual island. If Subnautica turns into a trilogy, then I think all of the unanswered questions from Below Zero will be acceptable. And again, they may not all get answered, but I think a lot of them could be answered if there's a third game in the series. And, I mean, who knows? They may want to go off and do other projects and might come back to Subnautica in 10 years and make another big splash. That pun was not intended. But, you know, I mean, certainly the first game did make a big splash, right? It was an indie hit. It was a sleeper hit that kind of exploded and certainly got some strong backing from some strong voices. But, you know, really started more as a passion project. And, you know, I've read some criticisms about the first game, too, and its storytelling, like, what didn't we learn, and why is there all these unanswered questions? And here, that's the problem with unanswered questions. When you try to answer the unanswered questions, you end up leaving more unanswered questions than you ever had to begin with. Excuse me. I mean, you ask the question, well, what did the architects look like? We answered that question in this game, but by doing so, we had to, you know, meet one, build its body, see some of its technology, wonder about, that question of robot versus, technology versus biology, all those kinds of things that spin out of it. The implications of how old do they live as individuals? How old do they live to be as a race? I mean, how do they reproduce, right? That's another question as to why they might have had to incorporate biology into their renewable bodies, is because without it they wouldn't have been able to, and maybe they're a stagnant race now, maybe they can't reproduce. So again, all those questions are not answered, and every time we try and answer them, we're going to spin out more questions that need to be answered, more questions that we want answered. Oh hi, my boys are home from school. I'm gonna mute myself and be gone again for a minute. Sorry about that. It's always a hectic time of day, and I knew I was going to run into it. Yeah, well, no doubt somebody has a theory out there, a fan theory or whatever for this game, and I don't know. It is a real good game. Yeah, any sequel to a game like Subnautica is going to be challenging to say the least, right? I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being a trilogy. There's lots of potential for another story, you know, and easily in Subnautica 3 we could end up seeing Robin just like we, you know, saw Marguerite from first game in this one, right? Could appear at some point, and maybe it'll, you know, maybe the third game will take place 100 years from now. Yeah, I mean, lots of potential for that for sure. Just depends how big a story they want to tell. Like, I know I looked already, but so my playthrough one day, basically 14 hours. I saved right before injecting the cure into the frozen Leviathan, and then it probably took me a half an hour all told to get through the rest of the game. So still, figure 14 and 24, 28, 38, so 40 hour, figure a 40-hour game. It took me closer to 60 to beat the first Subnautica. Of course, in the second one, I had more of an idea about what I was doing, you know, what to look for, how to find things, how to take, you know, some calculated risks, and but still, if the first game was 60 hours and this game is 40 hours, I think a Subnautica 3 could be between a 60 and an 80-hour game. Again, depending on what stories you want to tell, or what stories they want to tell. Riley. Who was Riley? Oh, from the first game. Yeah, I was tunnel vision. That's right? The like the player character from the first game. Yeah. So I mean, either one of them could easily, or both of them could easily appear in a third game. I don't think I would want to play as either of them again. I mean, here's the other major difference that stands out to me now that I think about it between Below Zero and the first game. The first game, Riley was much more of a blank slate, right? So you could slide into his shoes and imagine you were him. About the only thing we learned about Riley in the first game is that swimming was one of his favorite recreational activities. That's the only thing I can think of that we learned about Riley in the first game on a personal level, right? I don't think we even necessarily knew what his job was on board the ship. So in a sense, in the first game, every other character was more fleshed out than Riley was. And that was a real strong point in the game, I think, because it helped you internalize and feel like everything that was happening to you. It aided that sense of immersion, that sense of isolation, that made the game so unique, right? That gave it such a strong atmosphere, that made you want to explore, that made you want to find out what was happening next, because you didn't have these nagging questions of you know, who am I, what do I want? It was just, you know, it wasn't about who is my character, it's about how do I escape from this planet. And that's ultimately what it was, you know, escape from the planet and survive the bacteria, which were tied super closely together, because you can't escape until you cure the disease. Yeah, whereas in the second game, they almost flip the script on that, right? Not only do we learn a lot about Robin and her sister and their connection and their relationship, we learn about these other people in more detail, and they're all in a way kind of connected to Robin because they're connected to Sam, her sister, and even to the point where Alan and Robin have these metaphysical discussions about what is the nature of existence, and is a short but intense life better than a long but maybe more, I shouldn't say more boring, but a more, I guess we don't know enough about the architects' kind of day-to-day lives, but some of the discussions they have, really highlight the differences between humanity and the architects, but in doing so, Robin has a very strong voices very strong opinions on a number of issues that players themselves may not agree with. We may agree with the lion's share of them, but I think it's a stretch to say that we would all universally believe that all of those points are true. The banter itself is a good back and forth. There's some humor splashed in there. There's some there's some grieving that seems to go on in Alan when he's uncertain if he's the last of his race. I don't know, and humans in this universe seem to have gone out of their way to explore the universe, right? They're charting new planets all the time, they're exploiting them for resources, they've spread out into different, trans-governmental businesses, basically, right? And, Xenoworks being a small startup, whereas Altera is a mega corporation, and so you get the sense that there's, expansion, there's competition for ideas and resources, and even Marguerite's background and the background of the, from the Mongolian, whatever it was, that group. So gives you the sense that there's still competing groups of humanity, and we don't know what the state of the architect is. Have they colonized kind of their own empire? Maybe empire's not the right word, but their own, do they have a presence on 100 worlds, or have they kind of isolated themselves in their one solar system? And sure, they've explored in the past, but maybe they were more interested. And when you look at when you scan the body parts and whatever, it gives you the completed body before you let Alan inhabit it. It gives you some information about what creatures, and it lists off, it says that there's 20 different unique DNA sources, and it rattles off maybe 6 or 8 of them, what they are. So several of them have obviously been encountered by humanity. A good number of them have not. The lion's share, like 60 to 80% of them have not been, or at least, Robin didn't have access to that information. So, certainly their spheres of influence obviously now overlap, but don't overlap strongly. Like, I got the sense from the first game that, 4546B was kind of on the fringe of human explored space, right? That the ship that was on its way to build a new facility that would facilitate travel and exploration, and got shot down on the way when they stopped. I think they stopped off at 4546B to investigate the disappearance of the earlier craft. A new warp gate, thank you. So humans have warp gates, and the architects also have warp gates. We've never seen a human warp gate, but yeah. So I don't know if that's where they were going to build it, or if they were just moving to, like, if they were making a stop off there to check in on the Torgals and they're missing, flight, or if there was, another destination in mind, but it seemed to me that it was more on the fringe rather than close to center of, human civilization. Then again, it's possible that humanity, expanded out in a multitude of directions, and there's certain mega corporations, we know there's certain regional, conglomerates that control different regions of space. So right, and that certainly sounds reasonable, right? Like something's going on there. The ship never did that job, of course. Building the warp gate was supposed to take, I think, several months, if I'm remembering some of the data entries right from the first game. So they had a long ways to go. But, once they were finished the warp gate would get them back to kind of the core systems in a reasonable amount of time. Part of the reason the rescue operation is right, the Degassi. That was the name of the ship. Yeah, so it was kind of kill two birds with one stone. They were a relatively wealthy family, so whether there was a reward for information or if they were, whatever, they were taking advantage of kind of two things at once there. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately, for all we know, the architects don't even inhabit the same galaxy as humanity. I mean, maybe they do, but there's another unanswered question, right? Even the planet that Robin goes to at the end of the game there may not have been the architect's original homeworld. It might be their main center now, but there's no guarantee, especially given how long that race has apparently existed, that they could easily have originated from another galaxy and moved here. I mean, there's all kinds of potential possible answers to that question. Yeah, I don't know where they'll go from here. I have a suspicion that they're working on something new. Although I know they've only relatively recently gotten the ports for the Nintendo Switch, and so they've got kind of work they can do to kind of expand their audience and their reputation. And I've heard from a few folks who didn't particularly enjoy Below Zero. They felt like it was too much of a rehash of the first game. I mean, build the scanning tool, build the flashlight, build the repair tool, find some diamonds so you can build the laser cutter, and it was the same tech progression over again. And I can see their point. I mean, that stuff kind of faded into the background for me next to having new areas to explore, which was really more to me what the game was about than the survival aspect. I have no idea what I'm planning on streaming next or when. Possibly as early as tomorrow I may be on again, assuming I can figure out what to play. I should probably not be on too much longer myself, but I appreciate the conversation. It's definitely helped me crystallize some of my thoughts about the game and where it's at and where it could go, and what I liked and what I would maybe look forward to in a follow-up. So yeah, appreciate you stopping by. I have a not insignificant catalog of games on the Epic, from all the free games they keep handing out on the Epic Store, so I'm got a couple in the back of my mind I've been looking at to jump into. The challenge for me is always finding a game that I don't tunnel vision on, and I tunnel vision somewhat in Subnautica too. But I wanted to play it, I wanted to record it, and so it was a good fit. What I'll be doing between now and Christmas is hard to say. There's so many options. You'll have to keep your eyes open, I guess. That's the best I can tell you. But again, thanks for stopping in. Thanks for the chat, and glad I was able to finish the game. Glad I was able to experience the game. And at some point, I am planning to play through it again, just like I played through the first a couple of times. I did do a hardcore run and completed it of the first game. So, but this game felt less threatening. So I'm not sure if that's a challenge I'm up to. But yeah, have yourself a great afternoon or evening, depending on what kind of time zone you're in, or morning for that matter. But catch you later, Richie. Thanks.